Okay, so we're going to be talking about word problems involving general quantities and length. And overall, I'm going to be talking about some general guidelines which help us to solve many types of word problems. Okay, so what is the method behind solving word problems? Let me go ahead and write down the steps. So step 1. The most important step of all, and the one that students seem to skip the most. We want to define a variable. What this means is you're going to create a variable to represent some unknown in the problem. In other words, you're going to write let x equal something. You're going to decide what to let x equal. So it just depends on the problem. One hint, if the problem has more than one unknown, in other words, the problem is asking you for two different things, or there's two things that you don't know, then what you should try is letting x equal the last one mentioned. I am going to go over what that means. I'll do some examples that illustrate what it means to be the last one mentioned. So, step 2. We're also going to, at this point, write the second unknown using the same variable. That doesn't mean it's going to be x also, but it might be x plus 5 or 3x or something like that. So it's going to have something to do with the last variable. Okay, step 3. We're going to write down an equation using a relationship in the problem statement that was not used in steps 1 or 2. So you're going to use a relationship that hasn't been used yet. That's the key here in order to write down an equation. Okay? Step 4. Once you have your equation, at this point, for most students, it becomes pretty easy. You're just going to solve the equation. Once you solve the equation, step 5 is going to be to answer the question. One important thing to remember, don't forget the units. So if your problem has inches, use inches. If your problem has feet, use feet. You've got to read the question carefully. Alright, so let's try a couple of examples. So, problem 1. Jim applied to 3 more colleges than his sister Tracy. Together they applied to 13 schools. To how many schools did they each apply? So we're going to follow all the steps one by one. Step 1 is to define our variable. Do we have more than one unknown? Let's see. We're talking about how many schools Jim applied to and Tracy applied to. So there are 2 unknowns, aren't there? Now, which one should we let our variable equal? Well, it says Jim applied to 3 more colleges than his sister. So that means that his sister Tracy, that's the second mentioned unknown. So I'm going to say let x equal the number of schools Tracy applied to. Okay, number of schools Tracy applied to. Alright, next one. It says Jim applied to 3 more colleges than his sister Tracy. Notice step 2 says write the second unknown in terms of your variable. So, because it says Jim applied to 3 more than Tracy, and Tracy did X, then that means that Jim did 3 more than X, which must be X plus 3. That means X plus 3 is the number of schools Jim applied to. Now, we are on step 3. Write down an equation using a relationship in the problem that was not used previously. Well, we already used that first fact, but we haven't used yet that together they applied to 13 schools. The word together is talking about the total of things. In other words, the sum. That means if you take the number of schools Tracy applied to and you add it to the number of schools that Jim applied to, you end up with their total, which is 13 schools. So that is the setup. Now let's go ahead and solve. So to solve this, we combine like terms. We have an x and an x. We get 2x plus 3 equals 13. Subtract 3 from both sides. We end up with 2x equals 10. Divide both sides by 2. We get x equals 5. So since x is 5, that's the number of schools that Tracy applied to, right? Because it says x is the number of schools Tracy applied to. X plus 3 is the number of schools Jim applied to. That means that if we do x plus 3, we really have 5 plus 3, which is 8. And this is the number of schools that Jim applied to. So now we answer the question. It says how many schools did they each apply? Tracy applied to 5 schools. Jim applied to 13 schools. And that is, oh, sorry, not 13, 8 schools. My mistake. So Tracy applied to 5 schools, Jim applied to 8 schools. And that is it for our first example. Okay, let's try another one. Let me go ahead and read the question here for number 2. This is going to be a problem involving length. Okay, so let's see what it says. A 40-inch board is to be cut into 2 pieces so that one piece is 8 inches shorter than the other piece. Find the length of both pieces. Okay, so step 1. We're going to let x equal one of the unknowns. Keep in mind that we have a board. This board is 40 inches long. Always useful to draw a picture when you have a length problem. We're cutting it into 2 pieces. One of them is 8 inches shorter than the other piece. Okay, so we're going to let x equal one of these pieces, right? We have 2 pieces. It says one piece is 8 inches shorter than the other piece. So we're going to let x equal that other piece. Now let's think, is the other piece the shorter or the longer one? Well, it says that one piece is 8 inches shorter than the other. That means x would be the larger piece. The larger piece. In other words, this guy right here is x. Well, it says that the one piece is 8 inches shorter than this piece. So if I want to write down my second unknown, 8 inches shorter than x would be x minus 8. This would be the shorter piece. So here's our 2 pieces. We have x for the larger, x minus 8 for the shorter. Now, it says write down an equation using a relationship in the problem statement that was not used previously. So, what fact haven't we used yet? Well, we haven't really used the fact that this is a 40-inch board yet. Notice that a shorter piece and the longer piece have to add up to the whole thing, right? That means that x plus x minus 8 is equal to 40. That is our equation. Let's go ahead and solve this. So we're going to combine like terms. We get 2x minus 8 equals 40. We add 8 to both sides. We get 2x equals 48. Divide both sides by 2. We get x equals 24. So once we get x equals 24, notice that that means we found the larger piece. So the shorter piece must be 24 minus 8. That would be 16. So find the length of both pieces. We know we're talking about inches here. So the shorter piece is 16 inches. And the longer piece is 24 inches. And that's our answer. Okay, I want to do one more that is similar to this problem. This is going to be a length problem also, number 3. Similar except trickier because we're going to have more than 2 unknowns. We're actually going to have 3 unknowns. The method, though, you'll see is exactly the same. So let's see. It says a plumber has a 9-foot piece of copper pipe that is to be cut into 3 pieces. The longest piece will be 4 feet longer than the shortest piece, and the medium-sized piece will be 3 times the length of the shortest piece. Find the length of each piece of pipe. Now notice that the shorter piece is mentioned at the end of the first part and also the end of the second part. Notice it says the longest piece will be 4 feet longer than the shortest piece, and the medium-sized piece will be 3 times the length of the shortest piece. So the shortest piece is the last mentioned one. We're going to let x equal the length of the shortest piece. Now let's go ahead and try to write down the other unknowns in terms of the first one. First of all, if x is the length of the shortest piece, it says the longest piece will be 4 feet longer. Let's do the medium one first. The medium piece will be 3 times the length of the shortest piece. So 3 times x would be 3x. So 3x is the length of the medium piece. Next we have the longer piece, the longest piece. It says the longest piece is 4 feet longer than the shortest piece. Well, the shortest piece is x, remember. So that means that the largest piece is going to be x plus 4. This is the length of the longest piece. Alright, we are ready to write down an equation. We haven't used yet that it's a 9-foot piece of pipe, right? Let's go ahead and draw a picture since it might help us. This is our shortest. This is our medium. And this is our large piece. Now this one is x. This one is 3x, and this one is x plus 4. So what we haven't used yet at this is that this whole piece is 9 feet long. But then that means that the short plus the medium plus the large has to be 9 feet. So the way we write that is x plus 3x plus x plus 4 is equal to 9. You don't need to have these parentheses here, by the way. This is just so that it's clear that we're separating these three pieces. These are three different pieces that we're adding up. So let's combine our like terms. We have x plus 3x plus x. That gives us 5x plus 4 equals 9. And go ahead and solve for x. Divide both sides by 5. We get x equals 1. Now, x equals 1, that's the short piece. So that means this is 1 right here. So if you multiply 3 times 1, that's 3. So that's going to be the medium piece. Finally, the large piece, if you do 3 plus 4, that's 7. Sorry. Yes, 7. Oh, what was my mistake here? You don't add 3 to 4. Sorry, x equals 1. And so this would be 1 plus 4 would be 5. So this would be 5. So our short piece is 1. Short piece is 1 foot. The medium piece is 3 feet. And the long piece is 5 feet. And that is the answer. So I hope that was an okay demonstration for word problems. Make sure you watch some other videos to get a feel for the other types of word problems. Thank you very much.